Job descriptions can be so overwhelmingly long and filled with so much jargon that you sit there and think, what does this role do? Or, am I qualified to apply for this? So today we are going to talk about how to dissect the job description. Now, if we haven't met yet, my name is Cassandra and I help motivated professionals build their careers through practical tips to gain career confidence. And I know, well, at least I know I was this way. I don't know if you were this way, but when I was looking for jobs, I would be scrolling job boards, right? Reading job description after job description, and would either get overwhelmed by how much they were asking for, or would sit there and go, I don't know if I can do this, or what does that even mean? I don't even know what they're asking of me in this job. And so I'd end up really not applying to as many as maybe I probably should have. And I don't want that to be you. If you've been feeling that way, I want that to stop right now. Let's dissect that job description. Here are the things I want you to do. Number one, when you are looking at jobs, I want you to have a pen and paper next to you. We are going to start reading the tasks and then relaying them in plain language on the paper next to us. Because what happens is we just read over the whole thing and go like, yeah, I would like doing that, or yeah, I don't know what that means. And we don't take a minute to really think about it. So having the pen and paper next to you and kind of reading a bullet and going in plain language, what are they wanting me to do, helps us to start formulating, is this something we would like doing? So this means you have to be an interpreter of job description language. Now, my favorite classic example of this is my first job as a marketing assistant at Sony had on it as part of the description that I would be managing the creative asset library for 2 TV shows. That sounded highly intimidating to 22-year-old me. Like, I manage some sort of digital library of content. What is this? Do you know what it meant, y'all? It meant that I make sure the right logos for the show were in the right folders each year to go to the masses that would use those. Now, granted, there is some responsibility there. You don't want to have, last year's logo being used by people this year, but managing the creative asset library sounds very fancy compared to, oh yes, I checked one day and the right logo is in the file for the year. Don't need to do this again for another year. Okay, so I also found another job description that I'm going to read from to show you some of the ways that you need to be this interpreter. And this actually was a pretty good job description. This is one I found on Disney Careers, and it wasn't over the top. We'll talk about over the top in a minute. But one of the bullets says, build a strong network and influence effectively across cross-functional partners on the ongoing management of a seamless new hire experience. So this is somebody who's going to help with training new people on board. But let's look at that first part. Build a strong network and influence effectively across cross-functional partners. That means you need to build relationships with people in other departments. Okay, so that's what you would do. On your piece of paper, you go, build relationships with people in other departments. Now, another one. Collaborate with design team to enhance and script content to always deliver high quality and timely information to new hires. Integrate core values and organizational knowledge throughout orientation to create organizational alignment to the norms that differentiate the Walt Disney Company. All right, this means essentially, and I'm dumbing it down, but that's what we need to do. You are going to script and create PowerPoints that hit new hire guidelines and influence and share the company culture. That's it. You really, if you want to dumb it down even further, you're going to create trainings through PowerPoint and scripts. There you go. So, be an interpreter and then write down what you've interpreted. Now, you need to go back and look at what you've written down and see what things go together. Like, what things does it seem like they've broken out into parts, but they would go together. So if I was going for that Disney job, which I'm not going, it's just an example. If I was going for that job, I would realize, okay, I need to build relationships with these departments to make sure their norms or their culture is in the trainings that I'd be creating for their department, right? Those things go together. And then what things do just seem like offshoots? This is going to help in seeing how much time you're spending in what parts of the job. Just because something was written first doesn't always mean it's the thing you'd be doing the most. And some companies or some institutions love to give percentages of what you would do. Take those with a grain of salt. Okay. Like if it has the highest percentage, that probably is the thing you're doing most. But if it says you're spending 35% of your time on something, they did not sit down and scientifically decide 35% of all time is given to this thing. It's just saying, here are some different areas you'll be working in. This percentage is highest, which means you'll be working in this thing the most. But if it doesn't have that, you need to start kind of decoding for yourself, what parts are you working in the most? Because sometimes what happens is we read a job description and there's one or two pieces of it that we go, man, I really love that part. I'm excited I get to do that. And you don't realize that, like, yeah, you get to do that once a year, but everything that you have to do 99% of the time, you don't really enjoy, right? Or we get intimidated by something like managing the digital creative asset library because it sounds fancy, and it turns out, oh, that thing is really small in comparison to like the daily tasks. But if you sit there and you look at the list you've created, you can kind of start figuring out what those higher level or more time consuming things are based off what things pair together or themes of what's kind of repeated a lot. Okay, so now we need to cut out the noise. Some job descriptions are extremely long. They list everything you've ever possibly done or could possibly do in the description. That's a video for a whole other day, that sometimes these are wanting Superman to do a job that the last person who was in that position didn't do it that way, but they've just put their wish list of everything they want in that job description. So now we need to cut through it. Job descriptions can be extremely long. They can list a bunch of different things you'd have to do that when you're just reading over it, you go, yeah, I'd enjoy that. But would you really enjoy it? Let's not let that one thing we like be overtake the 10 things we wouldn't like, or vice versa. We see one thing we wouldn't like doing, go, oh, this isn't the job for me. So on that paper that you've rewritten in plain verbiage, plain words, go through and by each of the things that are listed, give a check to the ones that you would enjoy doing, right? Or a star to the things you'd enjoy doing, and give a check to the things you wouldn't mind doing, and then give a negative to the things you do not want to do. Add those up. How good does this job seem to you, right? Sometimes, like I said, we look and we go, oh, I'd really love that. And it's like, it's not actually the thing you get to do that often, right? The example for this I always love to give is when someone told me that, like, someone said there's a job of a buyer at a department store. I was like, what? And they're like, yes, if you work in handbags at a fancy department store, you get to go to Italy and look at all the handbags and pick what we're going to use for the season. And then I looked into it more and found out, yeah, you get to do that for 2 weeks of the year. And the rest of the time you look at spreadsheets all the live long day. And I went, not the job for me. But if I just seen both of those on a job description, if it were only those two things, I'd be like, I don't know, kind of sounds good. You need to see written out what all the pieces are, plus, minus, and star, or star, check mark, and minus what you like, so that you can see a really good picture of how much would I really like this job. Okay, now one more thing to look at. When you look through that super long job description, does this seem like this should be the job of 3 to 4 people and not just one? That is what we call a red flag. Okay? We do not want to take that job. That job is going to be real hard. I would suggest moving forward cautiously. Now, if the things that are listed seem like things you'd really like to do, maybe move forward in the process, see if you get an interview, and then really be in depth and asking questions in the interview. But sometimes you can just tell from the job description, like, wait, how am I doing all of these things? That just shows this is someone, like whoever is hiring this doesn't have a clear picture of what this role should really entail. So maybe don't move forward or move forward with caution. So let's say you've done your list, you've done your star minus check system, and you've realized, yes, I like this job. I like the skills that it's looking for, but I only have 60% of them. Apply. As long as you have 60 to 70% of the skills listed, go ahead and apply. We do not know who is in the pool, in the candidate pool. We do not know which tasks are most important to them. They could be bringing you in off 60%. It happens all the time. So don't be afraid that you don't have 100% of the skills. If you have some skills that show you can do the job, you're excited for what the job entails based off what you've now seen and interpreted, go ahead and apply. Many people reach out to me and tell me their huge struggle is knowing if they are qualified enough for a job to go for it. How do you tell? Do you have to hit everything in the required section? What about the preferred section? You know, how preferred is it? There are lots of questions around this topic. And so today, let's talk about how to know if you're qualified enough to go for that job. And today, I want you to be confident that you can apply for that job. So if you like this sort of stuff, give this video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, the notification bell, so you know when new videos come out. I don't say that a lot lately, so thought I'd throw that in there. Let's talk about when you know to apply. There's an older study from Harvard Business Review that said that men will apply to a job when they fit 60% of the qualifications. Women will apply when they hit 100%. This became very popular in the book Lean In. It's been used a lot of times. Now, that study's older, but from what I found in just talking with you all, it still really applies. And also, LinkedIn did a study in 2020 that said that women apply to 20% fewer jobs than men do. So essentially, that's 20% fewer opportunities to be hired. Whether you're male or female, I know a lot of us have trouble deciding like, okay, but do I go for this job? Remember, studies only tell us so much, but they do share something of like, people are struggling with this topic. So here's where I sit with this. If you fit 60 to 70% of the qualifications, go ahead and apply. Here are my reasons why. The job description is a wish list. In the book, Designing Your Life, they talk about how the job description is often created. And what happens is they'll learn somebody is leaving or has left, and they'll write down everything that person did at the end of their time in the job. So if you've worked somewhere for a while, you know the responsibilities you have year one are very different than what you have year three. You learn more, you gain more responsibilities, you do more things. But when they leave, they put all those third-year responsibilities in the job description. Then they go, well, you know, he was really good at blah, 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 but I also wish he had this skill and this skill and this skill. Hey, let's add those in there too. So there's a reason why the right candidate in a tech company is called a unicorn. Like, these are mythical creatures. Being able to hit and fit 100% of the job description, you are mythical. You are a unicorn. So if you read the description and you believe you have the skills and experience to demonstrate that you can do the job, go for it, okay? If you can do the majority of it. The follow-up question is always, well, how do I count what's years of experience? Because here's the thing, it'll say something like, oh, must have 3 to 5 years of experience, or even for my new grads, entry-level jobs will often say, must have 1 to 2 years experience doing blah, 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 blah. And it's the whole, how do I get experience if I've never had experience conundrum, right? Well, if you had 2 years experience doing that thing, you're probably already moving on to go do the next job. So remember, even a year can count. But what counts as experience, y'all? It doesn't mean it has to be paid. If you've done the thing before, it counts as experience. So if you've had an internship where you've done some of these things, if you volunteered somewhere, if you've been in a student leadership program, if you've freelanced on that thing, if you did a school project, you have experience that you can talk about. So that counts. The other reason why I say apply is you don't know who's in the pool. Just because you see on LinkedIn that 400 people applied for a job doesn't mean all 400 are qualified for it. You don't know who else they're looking at and the skills and experiences they bring and how yours stack up and could be much higher compared to everybody else. So it's worth applying. And let's just say there's a job that you really want. You see that post and you're like, man, this is my dream job. But you're going through that skills and experience list and that preferred qualifications and the required qualifications. And you're going, I don't have a lot of these things, but man, I'd like to do that job. And man, I think I'd be good at that job, but I don't have enough to do this. Well, let's not get defeated. Take this as your wake-up call. How do you go get some of those skills and experiences they're looking for? Can you take a LinkedIn learning course and get a certificate? Can you go to a community college or take a Skillshare class? Can you volunteer somewhere to grab some experience to put on that resume? Don't look at it as a defeated sort of thing, but as a, hey, great, now I have the roadmap of what I need to do. So when this position comes up again at this company or another, I'll be ready for it. And yes, there are certain companies, certain organizations, corporations, state government departments that do have some very particular requirements to do a job, like must have master's degree or must have 5 years experience, but they're often put in there with other qualifications or requirements that actually aren't required. So that's the thing. Sometimes we don't know, like, oh no, if I don't check this box, I'm out. You don't know that. So you might as well apply. Yeah, you might not make it, but you know how you won't get the job? By not applying for it. So go ahead and apply. Job descriptions can be really hard to decipher and to know whether you should continue and apply or do not pass go, let's stop right here. You know, is it a company that's not recognizable? Well, are they a scam? Are they asking for 8,000 requirements? Who had the time to learn and gain all these skills? Or maybe it's the 10,000 tasks that they say you'll do in this role and you're thinking, wait, are they hiring a person or a department, right? There's a lot of things that can make you go, oh, I don't know if I should apply for this job or not. So today, let's talk about job description, red flags, and when to stop altogether and when to maybe proceed with caution. The biggest thing I think we all wonder when reading a job description is it a scam? Right? You've probably seen these or you've heard of these. How do you know when it's a scam and when it's just a really poorly written job description? So the first way to tell it's a scam is that the title and the actual description of what you would do don't match. My favorite version of these is places that say it's a marketing job, but it's really a sales job. In case you didn't know, marketing and sales are not the same thing, but certain companies want you to believe they are. And some might not be scams, but they're sort of a wolf in sheep's clothing. They're telling you they're one thing and they're really another. So my favorite of these is I'll see ones that say they're a marketing job. And you start reading the description and it talks about how you're going to promote our product out in the world. You will be on the front lines sharing our product to people. And you know what it really means? It means you're that person in Costco telling people about these new lights or this new pillow on weekends. Like, have you met those people at Costco? That is not a job for everybody. And a lot of times that's not a job that somebody thought they were signing up for. They thought they were signing up for something different, not standing in Costco. Also, no shade to those people. It's just rarely are they getting what they expected they were getting in the job. Next way to tell it's a scam is when there's no job description at all. Now, these used to be super popular back when we'd look in newspapers. It would just say things like, earn $17 an hour, call this number. And it was like, this feels too good to be true, but I'm desperate, so I'm gonna try it. If there's no job description, keep on moving. The next one, if it asks you to pay money, if it says, oh, to move forward, you need to send this much money to, I don't know, get this assessment or get these things. If you have to pay money of any kind, that is a huge red flag. We do not pass go. The thing is, this one, I'm sure some of you right now are like, Cassandra, that is so obvious. Like, really, you're telling me this? When we really need a job, when we've hit the bottom of the barrel in our heads, you haven't actually, but in your head, you've hit the bottom of the barrel, you start getting desperate, and desperate people make not the greatest choices sometimes. So while it might seem really obvious of like, I'm not going to pay a company to get me the job if that's in the job description, obviously, sometimes it's not so obvious. Sometimes that job sounds so good, or we just need a job so badly. We think, yeah, I'll do it. But just don't do it. Another way to tell it's a scam is if they're requesting too much personal info. Yes, you need to give them your address and your phone number, but your date of birth should not be there. Your social should not be needed at this point. They don't need a ton of personal information. This also doesn't mean that like the job is a scam, but it just shows a red flag of, is this where you want to work? In LA, it was very common for even hostess jobs at trendy restaurants to want your headshot and your resume with your measurements. No, you do not need that for me to go, how many are in your party? It's not necessary. So sometimes it's not a scam, but it is something that should make you go, I don't know if these are the people I want to work for. Another one that shows it's a scam, typos. In fact, not just like typos, but a lot of typos. We want to stay away from anybody who couldn't write their job description properly. And then the last way to tell it's a scam, and I kind of touched on it already, if the salary is too good to be true, it is. So if it's an entry-level job that's saying, we'll pay you $25 an hour, $30 an hour, or make 6 figures this year on something where it's like entry-level, that's a scam. I would just stay away. Let's be realistic about these things. Red flag number 2, having 8,000 requirements or tasks that need to be done. This is what I call the unicorn red flag, okay? In tech hiring, they constantly talk about the unicorn, that elusive candidate that can hit absolutely everything listed on that job description and has that je ne sais quoi that they need for this position. That person that they just feel it and they have all the experience coming in. They're not going to have to learn anything. They've just got it. Basically, they're asking for a fantasy, right? A unicorn is not real, folks. And yet they call them unicorn candidates, thinking they're so clever, being like, well, we know this is going to be very hard to find because it's a unicorn. And I'm like, no, it's not hard to find because it's a unicorn. Unicorns aren't rare. They're non-existent. In case I'm bursting any bubbles for you right now, unicorns don't exist. But companies love to talk about finding that unicorn, that really they're wanting that diamond in the rough candidate, that needle in a haystack candidate, but they call it a unicorn. So if you see one of these jobs that acts like you should have a billion kinds of experiences, you should have done all these things by a certain point, you should be able to do all these tasks once in the job, I say proceed with caution. I'm not going to say it's an absolute do not pass go, but proceed with caution. Sometimes when we get into the interview, we see what they really need. Sometimes you look and you go, I can do all those things. Great. You really are the diamond in the rough candidate. But really be looking at, is this person wanting to hire one person or do they want a department and one person to do the job of a department? It just sometimes can show that a company has very unrealistic expectations of what one person can do. Now, while the word unicorn isn't normally in the job description, oftentimes you will see the words ninja, rock star, wizard, like, no. We don't live in Harry Potter, right? We're not in Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. I am not a rock star. If they're using those words and then it happens to have a bunch of tasks under it, I would walk away. So the last red flag is actually my favorite. I know that's weird, but really, it is my favorite. And that is words and phrases that equal a dysfunctional work environment. Here are a few. Super flexible equals you will be on call 24/7. Unlimited vacation means When will you feel brave enough to ask for 2-3 weeks off? No one ever does. In case you didn't know, unlimited vacation studies have shown those people work harder and longer than people who get told you get 10 days this year. This is my personal favorite. Work hard, play hard. This means that, yes, we are all going to work together, but you also need to make us your best friends too. So we're going to see you all day long, and then we expect you to join the company softball team. We're a family, a dysfunctional one. Work in a highly competitive environment. This one is for some people. If you're a competitive person, go for it. But for the rest of us, work in a highly competitive environment means your coworkers are not your friends, they're your competition. It's gonna be cutthroat. Able to handle creative or ambitious personalities. This means your boss will be difficult. Now, to demonstrate this more, I actually went and found a couple of job descriptions to show you how they're written and ways that you might just want to proceed with caution. Like I said, these are red flags, but just like in dating, we see one red flag and we just go right on past it. So you're going to have to decide for yourself, is one red flag worth nixing it, or do we look for a second red flag? But these are things to be thinking about. So one I liked was, this was in an actual job description. The ideal candidate is tenacious, inspired by making great content, and can handle high-pressure situations. That's going to be a hard work environment. I'm just going to tell you right now. The fact that they said you have to be tenacious, I don't know if I want that in my job description. I think I'm a tenacious person, but do you want to be stressed out like that at work every day? I don't know. Just think about it. Then, like I said before, working in entertainment, these are the best because, in case you didn't know, film and television has a lot of mercurial, difficult, hard to deal with personalities. And sometimes in the job description, they're trying to tell you that without just telling you that. And sometimes they're just real honest about it. So this was one I found for an agent assistant. I'm going to have to read. You're seeing me look down because I'm reading off my screen. Part-time job. Long-time agent looking for a right-hand person. Someone who is in it for the long term and is ready to learn, and learn some more. Most of your work will be done from the comfort of your home, but it does require a lot of time throughout the day. But it's a part-time job. What you will be doing: communicating with talent and casting directors all day long. And then in parentheses, and sometimes into the night. You will also be working on submissions daily, as well as helping to set up interviews and appointments. Okay, that sentence makes sense. Here's my favorite. This is not for the faint of heart, but you will have a lot of fun and a lot of excitement to keep you busy in this part-time job. You need a computer. You need a car. You need at least 4 to 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday, to be dedicated to this position. So again, inconsistencies, big red flag. Part-time job, you need to be available all day long, sometimes into the night. And now, you need to set aside 4 to 5 hours a day. Set aside. What are we doing here? We will be working as a team, and I will need to not only trust you, but to count on you. Okay, y'all. I would never apply for that job. That right there is written by the person you be working with, and that just screams, I am difficult. I am hard to deal with. And what I want is going to change on an hourly basis. So when you're reading job descriptions, make sure you're really thinking about, is this something I should be going for? Now, again, I'm not saying you shouldn't go for these. If it's those first ones, if it's too high a salary, they're asking for private information. Of course, those are scams. Don't go for those. But on these last 2 red flags, I'm not saying you shouldn't go, but know yourself, proceed with caution. You know, I understand you want a job, or you want a new job, but you don't want to jump from the frying pan into the fire. Let's make sure you're getting in the right position. Now, if you have been looking at job descriptions and applying, and you're starting to get to the point where you're interviewing, or you just want to be prepared when that interview comes along, I have a course for you. It is my interview confidence course, right? It's everything you need to be prepared and confident when walking into your next interview. Now, that literally walks you through my system, the system I personally use when preparing for any job interview. And so you can check that out in the description box below. So that is it for today. I hope you have a great one. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments, what are some of the words and phrases you stay away from and tell you, nope, I'm not applying anymore. I would love to see them. Okay, that's it. Have a good one. Bye.